Hi, my name is Larry London. I'll join you for today's Border Crossings as we welcome a band from Santa Barbara, California with one of the most unique names, Toad the Wet Sprocket. The group formed in 1986, and just before their first performance, they realized they needed a name. So they borrowed a character from one of England's most famous comedy sketches by Monty Python. And one of the show's stars, Eric Idle, heard the band introduced on the radio and had to pull over out of surprise. The group experienced their biggest hit in 1991 with their third CD, Fear, and the success of the hit song All I Want. Toad the Wet Sprocket are on tour for their latest album, New Constellation, and they will perform an acoustic version of All I Want with several other songs today on the program. Welcome to Border Crossings. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Border Crossings. We're sitting back and having a chat right now with a group of guys that have been on the road now celebrating an anniversary, a special anniversary. 5 albums into their career, and they were #1 on the charts and selling millions of records all around the world. We welcome Toad the Wet Sprocket to the Voice of America. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Larry.
Thanks. Good to be
It's
here.
very nice to have you guys. Congratulations on the anniversary of Coil. It's got to be a little, surreal if you look back that all these years have gone by already since you put out that multi-platinum album.
Absolutely. That one actually not multi-platinum.
Oh, come
Kind
on.
of didn't even squeak to gold, but we loved it.
Well, yeah, that album helped to really kind of put you in the mainstream. I mean, you'd had 4 albums before that and done very well and put some music out that was in film and TV. Mm-hmm. But, All I Want, which I guess you guys are going to do, that was a mainstream mega hit. And,
Yeah.
Along with all the other hits that you guys have had over the years. Now, how did Toad the Wet Sprocket come together? I mean, this is a story that goes back to when you guys were young, little kids.
Yeah, we owe it all to high school drama. I mean, some people...
I knew Randy since I was 5 from church, and met Dean in junior high school math class.
Yeah, he sat next to me.
And then met Glenn in high school freshman theater class or something. You were a freshman, I was a senior.
Yeah, they were all seniors. I was a freshman, and we put on Oklahoma, the Thornton Wilder Our Town, and Oklahoma. So we did some Rodgers and Hammerstein. We did some Thornton Wilder. Todd was the narrator in Our Town. Dean sang the farmer in the cowman.
There, the farmer and the cowman with his friend.
And so it was high school theater, and Todd had this great wood-sided station wagon, and I found out he lived 3 blocks away from me, so I would try to bum a ride off of him after rehearsal every day, and then he could play the riff from More Than a Feeling, which I thought was amazingly cool.
And is the basis for all of our songs.
Pretty much.
In the beginning,
it's all
really.
about Boston. So we just started writing songs together, and he turned me on. I'd been listening. I was mostly into metal at that point, lots of Ozzy Osbourne, Iron Maiden, and
Nothing wrong with that.
he turned me on to REM, Elvis Costello, U2, Dinosaur Jr., Husker Du, The Replacements. He kind of turned me on to all this music that totally changed how I listened to music, and we started writing songs and started the band.
So you guys were like 15 at the time, right around 15 in high school. Had you thought about another career, or has it always been music? I mean, leading up to that point.
I was more in theater, and I had wanted to be a high school teacher. I had my high school theater teacher said the reason he was there was because he loved the theater more than anything, but he didn't think he had the ego or the thick skin to go out and sell himself constantly. And he just wanted to be able to serve. And I was like, that's me. It would destroy me if I were out there. And it kind of did when it ended up happening. So the plan was, we were all going to break up and go to different schools, move out of town. And then we ended up getting signed during Dead Week. We were all in college. We were supposed to be studying for our exams. And instead we flew out to New York and signed a contract with Columbia Records. Came back that summer and went on tour.
Wow.
So
you're expecting to go out to the beach and you end up a superstar Columbia recording artist.
Well, we kind
weird.
of figured it would only last a couple of years. Most bands that get signed, they get dropped immediately. So it was like, it'll be a good story to tell, And then instead, it persisted.
It blew up.
Yeah, for against all reasonable expectation, it ended up working. And so we just, here we are, 30 years later.
And you guys came into the business at a great time for selling albums. Today's business is a very different industry, and it's very hard to sell an album right now.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, use that to our advantage. We didn't sell very many singles. We really tried to make the album, something that would hold together through 11 or 12 songs, and people for the most part would hear the song on the radio and buy the whole album. You did that a lot. I certainly did that a lot with bands back in those days. You took a chance on it, and we're just thankful that a lot of people took a chance on us. Took a chance.
And you guys, the last album, full studio album, was 2013, New Constellation, and so here we are 4 years later. What's the plan for new music going forward for Toad the Wet Sprocket?
Right now, we're doing more single-serving stuff. As a band, we have a song in a film coming out in September called Animal Crackers. It's an animated family film, and there's a song on a Roger Miller tribute. And we've all been doing writing work. Dean's doing a lot of writing, production, artist development. At some point, I've been doing a lot of solo albums. Todd's been making guitars, and always also writes as well. Getting older, we're all trying to figure out ways of making a living where we actually get to stay at home sometimes. Pushing 46, and it's like, it'd be so nice to be able to earn a cent in my hometown. So retooling a little with that. But there are a lot of different creative outputs, so it's wonderful to be able to get together with Toad and kind of touch on it and do a little thing that's a ton of fun to put together, but not have to have the not have to armor up quite so fully to put out a full record and do a full promotional
I don't think
thing.
people listen to records the way they used to also, so it's
Right.
not what they're
Technology's
looking
changed,
for.
places where you
It's
can
a lot
listen
of
has
work
changed.
for us, and
Yeah. It's a little like the 50s again. It's a singles economy, so it's actually really freeing to be able to just do do a song here and there and have that be
it's fun and
enough.
easy.
And you had mentioned you did some solo stuff. I read where you're working on another solo album. Is that correct?
Writing for another solo album. I have a solo album called Swallowed by the New that came out in the States end of last year and is going to be released internationally. I think UK and Germany specifically, but international release in September of this year.
So is this tour and reunion, is this a temporary thing, or are you guys going to always kind of go back
We
and
just
forth?
kind of, we go back and forth. It's great not to have to be pigeonholed by one thing. And I think doing this allows us all a lot of freedom in the rest of our lives. And, we have an audience that really appreciates when we get together and bring this to them. And it enables us, it's kind of, we can use it as a platform for the other things we want to do. So getting together, having a summer tour, we get to make a bunch of people happy. We get to make ourselves happy, check in with each other, and then kind of go back to everything else.
We're thrilled to have Toad the Wet Sprocket in our studios, and there's a lot to talk about with the guys. Before we do that, could you do a song for us?
Yeah, sure.
What's the song?
This is all I want. Nothing so loud as hearing when we lie. Truth is not kind. You said neither am I. The air outside so soft, saying everything. Everything. All I want is to feel this way, to be this close, feel the same. All I want is to feel this way, and the evening speaks, feel it say. Nothing so cold as closing the heart, and all we need is to free the soul. We wouldn't be that brave, I know. The air outside so soft, confessing everything. Everything. All I want is to feel this way, to be this close, feel the same. All I want is to feel this way. The evening speaks. won't trouble me. All I want is to feel this way, be this close, feel the same. All I want is to feel this way. The evening speaks, feel it sad. It feels so close this way. Let it touch me and let it hold me so I can feel it say.
Sounding great. Toad the Wet Sprocket, live here on Border Crossings. That song, in the 90s, you guys were on the radio all over the place, and people were singing along with All I Want and all the other, hits that you guys have had. So, I mean, things have changed. The industry's changed. You guys have grown up. Looking back, great career. I mean, so what do you think has been the highlight for you up to this point?
Hard to say. I mean... It's weird because you always want to measure those things by, the biggest audience or the kind of, largest impact. And when I think back, it's, for me, it's more making music has allowed me to get to know people I wouldn't have met otherwise who are really inspiring to me. So for me, it's more about the people I get to call friends and the opportunity to kind of build community through that. And like my best musical moments are pretty private mostly. But there have been some great public peaks as well.
So here's a question that I'm sure you get asked all the time. Obvious question. We're meeting a lot of new listeners. We're on in 100 different countries around the world. Toad the Wet Sprocket. That's a very unique
That's an odd name.
And different name for a band.
I love that name.
And how did it come to be?
Well, my friend David Worsley had a Monty Python album that we used to listen to. It was called Monty Python's Contractual Obligation Album, which is one of the greatest album titles ever. It had this sketch on it that Eric Idle had, I guess, originally written for a show that he did called Rutland Weekend Television, and it's called the sketch is called Rock Notes, and the very first line of this comedy sketch, it's like a spoof of MTV News. The announcer comes on and says, Rex Stardust, lead electric triangle with Toad the Wet Sprocket, has had to have an elbow removed following their recent successful worldwide tour of Finland. And I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. And so when we finally had our first gig that was in the paper, when we could see our name in the paper, we hadn't settled on a name yet, and we said, let's just put that in because it'll be funny. We'll see it in the paper. It'll be a good laugh.
Then we'll come up
and
with
then
a
we'll
real
come
name
up with
later.
a real name later. And so we did that, and we skipped the whole coming up with a real name later part, and we never changed it. And most people just refer to us as Toad now.
Yeah,
but
the
I
lesson
think
for the kids is do it right the first time.
It's it has
Come up with a plan.
It has had benefits over the years. People don't tend to forget it once they learn it, and also there was a long time when our profile was a little bit low. And every year it seemed like we would end up on Cracked or Cracked.com's list of the 10 worst band names of all time. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, So we would get a lot of free publicity and some write-ups that would most often say, these guys aren't nearly as bad as their name, or something like that. Sometimes maybe they are as bad as their name. I don't know.
The key to all of this is, yes, we understood that it was the worst band name ever.
Yes.
That was the point.
And then people ask, are the Monty Python guys cool with it? Well, we actually did hear from Eric Idle. He sent us a very nice letter. He said that he was driving on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, and he was listening to the radio, and they were playing one of our songs, and the announcer back announced it. That's an industry term. You know how that works. And he said that was All I Want by Toad the Wet Sprocket, and he did one of these, and, had to pull over to compose himself. and he reached out to us, and he was very, very nice about it, and we sent him a gold record with his name on it, and we've tweeted back and forth at each other a little bit now, all nice tweets.
Great.
And he's lovely.
He's
Probably
good
called
with
his
it.
lawyer first
Yeah.
before he called you.
And also Bob Harris
probably.
of Whispering Bob. Bob Harris of BBC Radio, who's the legend of quality music on BBC. Those original sketches were done with him. Actually, Eric Idle would dress up as him, and they would be these mirror images. And so he's always been a little bit friendly to us as well.
Great. Well, we're glad you're together, and hopefully put out some new music soon for everybody.
As
Would you
are we.
do another song for us?
Yeah,
Most definitely.
What's this called?
Walk on the Ocean. We're going to go back to the past again. We spotted the ocean at the head of the trail. And where are we going? So far away. And somebody told me that this is the place where everything's better and everything's safe. Walk on the ocean, step on the storm. Flesh becomes water, wood becomes bone. A half an hour later, we packed up our things and said we'd send letters and all of those little things. We knew we were lying and smiled just the same. It seemed that already forgotten we cared. Walk on the ocean, step on the storms. Flesh becomes water, wood becomes bone. Walk on the ocean, step on the storms. Flesh becomes water, wood becomes bone. Back at the homestead, where the air makes you choke and people don't know you, and trust is a joke. Don't even have pictures, just memories to hold. It grows sweeter each season as we slowly grow.
Toad the Wet Sprocket here on Border Crossings, and you guys are celebrating your 31st anniversary together,
Something like that.
something
Sure.
like 1986. And so, having been a part of part of the 80s, all of the 90s, and so on, do you have a favorite decade, a favorite time for music? Do you think music's better today than it
I like
was when
right
you
now.
started?
I like
You
now.
You like
I
now?
like
is
now
great.
the best.
I think there's more. People can mourn the loss of the record industry. Nobody buys music. The fact is, though, people listen to, even though the artists don't get paid, which is a whole other conversation. But music itself, more people listen to a greater variety of music than ever before. And seeing the iPod generation grow up, and people who grew up with basically every genre possible. Like when we were kids, you had to specialize. And
Are
you
you
go,
a
okay,
punk or a mod?
yeah, are you a punk or a mod? And it's like, and when you bought your replacements record, you'd spent your money. And so even if it wasn't their best record, you listened to that record over and over. You figured out everything you loved about it. You knew it in and out because it was the only music you could afford. You had the radio, and then you had the records you bought, and you were very loyal to those records. Now people grow up, they can listen to anything ever made, and and while some people can be really casual about it, I think that comes through in the new bands that are happening, where people are wildly creative and really able to take from the entire world catalog of music and break boundaries. So I think it's an amazingly creative time. That the benefit of that opening up and that cheapening of music has been at least that we have more incredible music. I mean, there's a certain rewiring to once again value music and musicians. That we're not a free service. We actually do need to make a living. And there's some revaluation of that. But I think even live music, I think, is more and more has been faked. People value live concerts. They want to hear. There's so much in the world that is kind of sheen and fakery, and people value so much just even without amplification, standing in a room and hearing a song, singing a song themselves. And it's something that I think a lot of the world has kept, and that the United States is trying to regain right now, is this sense of shared song, of songs that we all know. You walk into Germany and there's songs that make you German, right? Any other country, there are songs that identify you with your state, your place, your town, and we kind of have those, but I think we forgot as a nation how to sing those to each other. And we're starting to revalue that. And it's not just Sweet Caroline at a game. It's like, what's a song that makes me feel like I come from here, and that I could sing to anybody on the street and they'd share back to me? And forgetting that songs like This Land Is Your Land, I mean, those are revolutionary, powerful songs. They're not children's songs. And we kind of cut out the sticky verses in that and made it a kid's song. But that song is like so at the core of who we are still. And so I feel like as much as we're doing rock, a lot of my work coming on is about helping people remind each other that they can share songs together. I think that's a vital part of being a human being.
And as the music industry evolves and the way people get music continues to grow and develop and change, it gets harder, I think, to write songs, because nowadays everybody's claiming, hey, they took my melody, they took my lines, they took my songs.
Well, you got 12 chromatic notes in the Western scale, and only a certain amount of mathematical possibilities on how to combine. I mean, 7, 8 if you count the octave, right? So you're dealing with 8 notes and limited, vocabulary. If I'm going to write a love song, there's certain words about you and me and the moon that are going to come up, right?
Right,
so,
sure.
Fact is, people are going to be inspired by the same things. We're
Right.
a lot of what we're listening to. It becomes familiar. We're drawing from the same places. It's not something that I don't feel people should be worrying about that too much.
I mean, there's straight plagiarism, but there's also a lot of gray territory. And there's some amount of everything's been done. I mean, every life has been led, right? But every life is still vital. Everybody's story and angle and spirit is a little different than everybody else's, and very much the same. And to some degree, songs are the same. And there's this idea of novelty that every single composition, I mean, what we're doing is essentially folk music. It's music for regular people. It's not an elevated symphonic expression. This is
Right.
about life and experience. And folk songs used to belong to the people as well. I mean, they were things that people would keep singing to each other and change the lyrics of. This idea of like the single composition that never changes, that's kind of trapped in amber and has to remain pristine, it's a new thing. Even classical music, you go back to Bach. I mean, I'm friends with Chris Thiele, who talks about how Bach was a great improviser. And Bach on the page was not how Bach sounded when he played it, or the other contemporaries of his time. And so we like to have this idea of music as this unchanging thing, when in fact it's always a conversation and it's always an interpretation.
That's great. Outstanding. You guys are what we need right now among the things going on in our world. And we're glad that you're still making great music too, Toad the Wet Sprocket. One more song, I guess?
Yeah,
we got
sure.
time for one more?
It's
What's-
about California.
It is. Excellent. What a segue.
2, 3. Oh,
good?
let me get to him. 2, 3.
Where did the time go? What was I thinking? No compass, no map, no sail on the mast. This boat is sinking. We're going down, there's too much in my head right now. Got no way to slow it down. No one's gonna pull me out. No, I still make the same mistake. Oh, California's wasted on me. Stare at the sun, let the fire fill my eyes. I see nothing but light, an endless day to banish the night. I can set this right, but there's too much in my head right now. Got no way to slow it down. No one's gonna pull me out. No, I still make the same mistake. Oh, California's wasted on me. The line where the ocean meets the sky. I've been hoping I could see a sign, hoping I could see a sign. There's too much in my head right now. Got no way to slow it down. No one's gonna pull me out. No, I still make the same mistake. Oh, California's wasted on me. I still make the same mistake. I'm wasted out in California. Too much in my head right now. I'm wasted. Too much in my head right now. Oh, California's wasted on me.
Wow, sounding great. Love it. Toad the Wet Sprocket. Todd, Glenn, Dean, thank you guys so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Being a part of the show and, continued success for you guys and lots of great music. I hope you stay together for 20 more years and continue to put out the hits. And tour, is it going to be international for the benefit of our worldwide audience? Are you thinking
Not
of
at the
going
moment.
overseas?
Invite us.
If
We'll
somebody
come.
all it
wants to
takes is an
bring us over,
invitation.
yeah, that's all it takes.
And how do they reach you? Where do they send these invitations?
Oh,
they can go to our
email
yeah, I know.
toadthewetsprocket.com.
Yeah, we have our own website, and it's all
Yeah.
professional like that.
There's a website.
Very
There's a
professional.
button, I'm sure.
It says
there.
contact, and then you just like write in
ToadTheWetSprocket.com.
Yeah, yeah.
And your Facebook page and all
Yeah,
that.
Facebook on Toad the Wet Sprocket
Twitter.
on Facebook. Yeah, all that stuff.
All
Yep.
that.
All that.
Well, thank
Luckily, there aren't so many Toad the Wet Sprockets, so all the URLs were free.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming in and continue.
Thank you.
Have a great tour.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toad the Wet Sprocket, for joining us today. My name's Larry London, and this is Border Crossings.